In this video, we will be looking at steps to dockerize our Spring Boot application. So let's create one. You can create the template Spring Boot application by going to the store.spring.io website uh, and then simply creating the template project. I am using the Java language and Maven as my project. You can click generate and it will create a demo file for you. You can simply extract it and then import into the Eclipse IDE. Now let's import the Spring Boot application we have just downloaded into the Eclipse IDE. You can simply click on import, and under the Maven there is existing Maven projects. From there you can browse. I have available in my downloads directory, so I will simply give its path. You can see that it has picked the com.xml file from within that Spring Boot application. You can click on finish and it will start importing the project for you. If you are importing for the first time, it might take a little while because it will be downloading all the Maven dependencies. Now the project is available to me in the Eclipse IDE. Inside the template you can see a demo application, which is actually a main class which will run the complete Spring Boot application. Let's create a controller as well so that we can create some path mappings for our testing. Let's name it welcome controller. We need to specify the REST controller annotation so that the Spring Boot application will know that this class is actually a controller. Now let's write down a simple method inside this controller class for the path mapping. Let's simply call it welcome, which will return a string. Let's say running Spring Boot app. Next we will need to add get mapping so that the welcome URL gets aligned with this method. Now let's run this. You can simply right click on the project, run as Java application. You will see that in the console the Spring application have started running, and now when we will go to the browser and type localhost/welcome, it will display the same exact running Spring Boot app. Now next step is to create a jar file of this Spring Boot application. Right click on the project, run as, and Maven install. This will basically create the jar file of this project in this target directory. It's running the instructions. We will wait for a while. Now you can see that it has created the jar applications here, or the jar files. Now let's create the Docker image. First of all, make sure that the jar file created from the Spring Boot application is available. Here in some directory, I have created a directory and copied that jar file into the directory. Now let's create Docker file and open it in the notepad. It has opened the notepad for me, and now I can write the contents of the Docker file here. I've already copied the contents of the Docker file to save some time. Here you can see that the first line of code will tell the Docker to use the latest JDK that's available. The next step, it will copy the jar file to the dash app directory inside the Docker. It will set the current working directory to dash app and will expose the 8080 port so that we can use the local host and run the web application. Next, it will simply run that jar file onto the command line. Now let's create the Docker image. You can use the docker build command, and this Java Spring image is the name of the Docker image. will take some time for creating the Docker image. You see that the Docker image is now available. You can use the Docker images command to verify that the Docker image we have just created is available here. Docker Spring image. Now we will see that how to we can run this Docker image we have created. So first let's verify that no application is already running. So I have run localhost. You can see that this site can't be reached because there is no site that's running on the port 8080. Now let's run the Docker image. It will run the Docker image for us. Here I've run the Docker image, and you can see that it has started the Spring Boot application in the background. Now if I go to the browser and refresh this localhost 8080, you can see that the Spring Boot application is now running. So this is how we can dockerize our Spring Boot applications. I have documented all the steps in the description of the video. Thanks.